Put together a little lecture and I'll make the class watch. Pacific Northwest, where we're blessed with Sasquatch. Like in the Himalayas, the abominable snowman, known to have strength more phenomenal than Conan. Discovered evidence of this endangered species. Footprints, hair samples, even stranger feces. Put a bad taste in your mouth like a glass of scotch. Some say it smells worse than an ass or crotch. In British Columbia, they're more than legendary, even though the skeptics claim he's imaginary. Eyewitness accounts that attract attention, while others can't decide if it's a fact or fiction. Is there an ounce of truth? I don't pretend to know. I'm searching for the proof, whether friend or foe. Got his own erotic novel, getting naked with ladies. What's the missing 411? Ask David Pallades.
There's things that are not known. There's things that can't be known. There's things that won't be known. It's okay, you're not alone. There's things that are not known. There's things that won't be known. There's things that can't be known. It's okay, we're not alone.
Watching UFOs in the sky tonight. Been a little crazy. Been chasing a big one for a couple miles. And it's stopped and sitting still, and smaller ones coming at it. There's a third one you can see on the video. You can't see to the naked eye. Oh, there it is. It's showing up. You can see it.
White, flashing red.
Yeah.
Where'd it go?
It just disappeared.
Big one.
The big one just disappeared.
It's gone.
I can't sit in the road and keep doing this. But anyway.
Oh,
Yeah, you go.
it's over here now. Oh, that's weird. That's like a line of lights. It's like a bar of light.
You got somebody coming?
No, I don't, Mom.
Okay.
I'm videoing, no?
Oh, sure. That's right over there.
Yeah, it's got like a stripe of light traveling behind it.
Yeah, and that was the new one that appeared, and the other one disappeared, and the other two are gone. That's wild. Okay.
There's like a ball of fire down lower.
UFO going in and out of the storm. It's orange.
All right, we're live. Welcome, guys. Welcome to tonight's episode with me, JT, Sasquatch Confessions, my brother, Michael H. Adams, the Lord of O.R.D, the 14 digital shaman in the house.
Well, thank you for recognizing me. Somebody finally recognized me. Oh my God.
We are with Shel Dion tonight, speaking about her experiences, 50 plus years experience with Sasquatch. Shel, welcome.
Hi, thank you. And I
So,
thank you for the comments on the I see the chat says those pictures are amazing. Thank you. It's a joint effort.
oh man, they are truly amazing pictures you got there. When I was seeing them, I was like just amazed. Hey
Thank you.
Tom, how's it going? So, what can you tell us about yourself, Shel?
Well,
Who is Shel Dion?
this all started for me when I was a 4-year-old. My parents moved out into the boonies, and the Sasquatch were around, and so a lot of the stuff that happened to me when I was young was just terrifying stuff. Like they'll test you every way they can. And so I could go on for weeks and days about stories about scary stuff. But then as I got older in my teens, me and my brother, we were just dead set on seeing what's out there, you know? And it's kind of funny because our first visual of them, we thought we had a stalker that was 7 foot tall wearing a hoodie.
Yeah.
And that's when I was in my teens. And then one of them actually chased me, was after me. I was running for my life. My brother saved me, and his buddy, and I got away barely. And that kind of cooled me off for a little bit. Fear had me, and I was only 17 when that happened.
Do you know like for surely what it was?
Oh yeah.
Do you think like it was a Sasquatch that was chasing you?
It was no doubt. It was white out in the open, running across the soccer field, and I was giving it everything I had.
You know, I've heard people say the same thing where they thought something like the hooded something was chasing. That's what they thought. Like it was, but it was a Sasquatch.
Yeah, that was actually the first time we got a good visual of them in the light. I mean, there was lights from the school shining right on them and everything. And my brother, he had the first visual of it, and he had warned me. And I was going on. It's kind of a story. I don't know if you guys want that story. But okay. So being 17, my dad was an over-the-road driver. My mom was raising us pretty much on her own because he was never there. And my brother was Henri. He's 3 years younger than me. And I remember it being in the end of March, and it was starting to get warm outside. And I can remember when you have something traumatic happen to you, you remember every detail. I remember what I was wearing. I can remember everything that happened just in just like a color photographic memory of this. My mom had interrupted me. I was writing a final paper for school, getting ready to graduate. And she's like, "It's after dark and your brother's not home and you've got to go find him." And I'm like, "Oh, why am I always the parent?" Right. You know, that's kind of how it was. I was the only one that kind of had an upper hand on my brother. And I knew where he'd be hanging out and possibly what he may be doing that would be not good. So I grabbed a navy blue sweat jacket, had on jeans and some boat shoes. I don't know if you guys remember how slippery those boat shoes are, but it comes into my story. So, so that's what I'm armed with, you know, and I head out into the night, and I literally was afraid of nothing because we had been in karate for years, my brother and I, and we were just very skilled and very fit. And so I walked across an empty lot that's in front of my parents' house into like this open soccer field that goes behind a grade school, and then through a graveyard over to the ballpark. And I knew that my brother would be over there hanging out on top of those buildings because if the cops cruise by, they'd lay flat and you'd never see him. And I knew he'd be up there doing something on me. So I head directly there. That's the first place I'm going to look. And I'm on foot. Mom won't give me the car. So I head through that graveyard, and it's something I had done probably 100 times. I wasn't afraid of it. It's not a very big one. I mean, we live in a town that's only got maybe 1,100 people, and my parents lived on a branch off street of that town that's a dead end, and the end of that street is the graveyard. So, I kind of took a diagonal trek. I get across this graveyard, and I had a strange feeling. I can remember feeling watched, and I'd never felt that before in the graveyard. Never got, I had never had that hair raising tingle, and I felt it. I had that tingle, and so I get over there. I see my brother. I was right. There he is, and he's standing on the building, and he's looking into the graveyard, and he's like, "Sis, did you come through that graveyard?" And I was like, "Yeah." I'm just like, "What are you doing?" You got to get home because mom's throwing a fit and I'm trying to write a paper and I don't want to deal with this. And you know how teenagers can fight back and forth. That's where we were at. And I was like, "Get off that building." He's like, "No, I seen something in that graveyard." He goes, "I seen something." He says, "It's huge." And I was like, yeah, okay. How much you been drinking?" And he's like, "I didn't drink anything." And his buddy Mike, which was the new kid in town, he's standing there and he's like, "Yeah, we both seen it, man. We both seen it." And I'm like, "Okay, all right, whatever." And I said, "You just get down and get your butt home." And I turned and I started to walk off. I was going to take the same truck home. And my brother says, "Shel, don't go through there." He says, "Go out, walk the main, street and, cut across in front of the school and walk across the field that way." He says, "Stay in the light." He says, don't go through that graveyard." I was like, "Screw you. I'm going home the quickest way, and that's through the graveyard." And he's like, "Well, at least stay out on the main road where light shines on you so I can see you the whole time." And that made me stop and turn around and look at him. And I was like, "Really?" And he says, "Can you whistle if you get in trouble?" He says, "Can you cough? Can you do something so I can hear you if you need me?" And I was like, "You get off that building and just go with me." And he's like, "No, I want to see it again. I want to see it again." And I'm like, "Okay, all right." I just start walking. And when I got close to the graveyard, I went ahead and took a right and took that main road like he told me. Something told me to just kind of listen to him. And then what happens next is today I understand it, but back then I didn't. I'm out on this main road, and I used to babysit for the local cop, and she told me that they had vandalism in the graveyard. And I was like, "Okay, so you don't want to get caught in there. You don't want to get the blame for that." So I'm walking on the outside, and I see this dark Suburban coming, and it's turning into the graveyard entrance. Now, this thing was all blacked out, and this is 1987.
Okay, little different times, right?
Yeah. And so today that connects with me on the significance, but back then it did not. So I hurried up and ducked sideways on the side road and took the first graves that had some evergreen trees beside them, pretty big thing, and a big tree standing next to that. And I don't know if you've ever played hide and seek and you kind of go around the whole tree so nobody sees you. I cuddled up to that tree and I'm looking at it and I'm watching it, seeing where it's going. I pulled up my hood so my blonde hair was covered and tied down my hood, and I thought, "Okay, he ain't going to be able to see me. I'll go right around this tree as he passes and no big deal." Well, he's going so extreme slow, and what's he do? He turns on the exact road I'm on. So he's got headlights coming at me, and I'm like, "Oh, this is not going to work." So I go underneath that evergreen tree right next to me, and there's a headstone, and next to that was another evergreen tree, and they were pretty sizable trees. They had been there for a while. They were ornamental. They're not like evergreen trees that you're going to find in the forest, but they were ornamental type. And so I dove in that and huddled up next to the tombstone and just hid in that shadow. This vehicle stops like right there, and it's just sitting there running. And I'm like, did they see me? Oh my God, what is it? What if this is the cops? What if this is what if the local cop has gone to bigger cops? Looking at that vehicle, it's kind of ominous. And so I'm hiding, and it goes ahead and gasses and starts taking off slowly. When it did that, I thought, this is my chance to run. Now I'm on the back side of the tombstone, and I take off to run, and my feet get tangled up in somebody else's feet and legs, and I crash to the ground right underneath the other evergreen tree. And when that happens, I'm like kicking my feet trying to get away from it, and I feel like a little tiny kid. These legs are giant. The feet are giant, and I can't see. It's dark. And all I can think is, oh my God, this must be what my brother has seen. And so I'm digging to get away. And so I just start running towards the school. Now, the school was built in 1967. So it had this style where each classroom had a concrete division that come out and kind of angled and went up towards the roof, and they had drain spouts at each one. I headed directly for those because, when you sprint hard and fast, you got to catch your breath. This was all happening, and I wasn't expecting it. I'm kind of, set back a little bit. So I sprint towards that school, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I got to get to the street where there's lights and there's houses. And I hear this thing running behind me, and it's like thud, thud, thud. And every 2 steps I'm taking, I'm hearing a thud. And so I'm well aware that somebody, and I'm thinking somebody at the time, I haven't got to look at them. And I'm thinking they're bigger than me, and their legs that, they're taking faster steps than me. And so I duck in one of these cubby holes, and I lean back, and I'm looking back at the graveyard, and I'm trying to see my brother. And I'm thinking, I can't whistle, I can't cough, I don't want to give up my location. And so I'm looking back, and then I notice breath, because in March in Illinois, north central east Illinois is where I would be. It was getting a little chilly, and I could see breath that was way over my head on the pillar, the same pillar I'm in, only it's behind me. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm literally, this thing is just 2 bricks wide. That's how close I am to something or someone that is a giant. And so I scale down the wall very slowly. I get to the next inlet, and I jumped around that, and I lean back, and I'm still trying to see if I could see my brother from a different angle now. And boy, this gives me anxiety even talking about this.
Yeah, you're reliving it, man. You're reliving it. I can tell.
Yeah, it's crazy. And so
long ago too, it just still hits you.
yeah. So I was trying to see my brother again, and all of a sudden that breathing is right above my head again. And I'm 5'9". I'm not tiny. That breathing way up above my head, it had to be 7.5, 8 foot high. And I can just remember that, okay, I didn't hear it move. I didn't hear it sneak up behind me, so it's doing the same maneuvers I am. And all I can think is, okay, sprint out, get out. I've only got like 4 classrooms, and I would be to some light. And it would be the front of the school. And towards the front of the school, yeah, you have a little like lane there of a circle drive, but there's houses. And, people don't have their windows open yet. And I thought, if I start screaming, maybe somebody's out, maybe somebody hear me. So that's my plan. I just start sprinting that direction. And as soon as I hit that light in the front of the school, I make a left, start running in front of the school, and I'm screaming help at the top of my lungs. And I'm hearing it behind me. His feet are slapping the concrete. I can hear the slapping noise that don't even sound like shoes. And now I've got wet boat shoes because the grass is wet from dew, and I'm trying to run in them. And so I get all the way across the front of the school, and I'm still hearing those feet slap. I don't slow down to look behind me. I'm just digging because I know that it's coming hard and fast. And so I start to turn left to go around the rest of the school, and it'd be a long shot home. It would probably be 3 blocks, and then I would be to the lot where there you could build a house, and then across the street is my house. So
Mhm.
I'm like, I'm just digging, sprinting for everything I'm worth. And on that corner, couldn't make it a tight corner because he was too close to me. I could feel it. So I had made a big wide turn, and literally one shoe flew off, and I made the conscious effort to just release my toes and run barefoot, and lost both my shoes. And so now I'm barefoot and I'm running for everything I'm worth. And just as I get past the school and there's this wide open soccer field, they actually put 4 soccer fields on that field. That's how big it is. And so I'm digging, running towards home, screaming my head off. My brother is coming diagonal. He has seen the whole event, and he's coming diagonal, running sideways towards me, so we would intersect like a T. And he is screaming, "Don't stop, keep going." He's encouraging me, "Dig, sis, dig, go." And so I'm running for everything I'm worth. My mom hears all this commotion because she had stepped out on the porch knowing that she's looking for her kids and they're out beyond dark. It was a major thing at our house not to be out beyond dark because we had had so much terrorizing at our house and we didn't know what or why. And so my mom is out there, and now she's crossed the lot and she's standing in at the end of that field, and she's seeing it all in play. And just as this there's a like a baseball back thing there, like the backdrop of
Yep.
where you
Yep.
bat, the batting cage there, it was right there. And my mom was right there, and my brother's headed right there, and I'm just driving with everything I got to get there. And I guess he decided, "Oh, I'm not going to take on all these people," and he just took a right and went into a subdivision of houses where they had all kinds of grown adult trees and evergreens and plenty of cover. And my brother didn't even stop to see how I was. He made a beeline chasing after it. And I literally dropped on my knees in front of my mom and just had my mom around her waist. I was just terrified. I had felt his fingers touch my back many times trying to grab me. And I don't know what the motive was. I don't know if they would have taken me, but it seems like chasing me was not a good thing. Now what I know is Sasquatch, they would have never acted like that if it was good intentions. So there has, I can say in my life, and this has been 50 years of it.
So
I'm
are you
50.
saying, sorry, but did you just say that wasn't Sasquatch?
No, I'm saying the Sasquatch I know of after all
Yeah.
my
Okay.
journey, after 54 years of, I'm 54 now, and I was a 4-year-old when it started. So that's 50 years. So
Mhm.
I'm saying what I've learned of Sasquatch and the encounters I had since that night was
Yeah.
not good intentions.
Definitely shook you to your core, man. Like, and I
Yeah,
could feel it just from how you were speaking. I could hear it in you. That still hits you, right?
the fear. I had dreams for a long time, and um, he didn't stop. There was other things. He just stalked me a lot, scared us bad. He was always at my bedroom window. It was just a long process of that same Sasquatch terrorizing us.
It's weird how some are. I guess they're just different, like people. Like because like
Hmm.
I've only I've seen Sasquatch. You know my story. I've explained it to you. We've talked about it, and I've never had any bad encounters with Sasquatch, but like they're out there, right? Like they do happen, and it's
Well,
just
in 50 years
just
of
like people.
this, I can count on one hand how many bad Sasquatch encounters where I've actually encountered it, not being in the house and having stuff happen outside, but I mean, actually being in the field and having 5 interactions that were negative. And I've literally had
Negative interactions.
God,
Yeah.
just, I mean, I couldn't even tell you how many encounters. It would be way in the hundreds, you know, maybe even thousand at this point. You know, I've had so much of it. I lived it. Um, I went to college for science and dug into science as much as I could. And I was a science minded person with my early research. When I first come to Facebook, it was because I had other research buddies that said, "Man, you've got so much knowledge. You need to get on Facebook." And there's other people out there like us. And so we opened the first group of Bigfoot on Facebook.
Really?
And
The first
yeah,
one.
yeah, me and the guys that I hung out with back in the day. And
That's cool.
you know, there was all this talk of there was some southern individuals that come up with this term mind speak and for telepathy, and I hate that term because it really minimizes something that is so miraculous. I didn't believe in that. We laughed at it, we scoffed at it. um, we scoffed at everything that was seemed to be
See how
on the
much you can
paranormal.
change? You know, like literally,
Yeah,
you know, like over time, how we can change. You know,
yeah,
like look at that. That's oh yeah. Sorry.
yeah. And you know, that's the thing, it's growth. And then when they decide, when you decide to face them without fear. And I was literally throwing myself out there day and night because there's a story behind this. I got divorced around 2006. My dad was sick and dying. My mom was out here, and I had everywhere I had lived, they had followed me. Oh my God, they terrorized my whole life. Um, it literally was just a hard life, getting up and working, you know, 2 jobs and raising a kid, and then having these things wake you up all night long, and going to work 2 jobs with 2 and 3 hours sleep because something drove you crazy, or your kid was waking up in the middle of the night. And our house was, at least the windows were at least 8 feet off the ground. And he says, "There's something looking down at me. Somebody's got 2 orange flashlights shining them in my window." And you know, it was it's been a ride. That's all there is to it. And then so I get to my mom and dad's, and I'm taking care of my dad. My mom's still trying to work. You know, she's a nurse and delivers babies. And so she's gone all hours of the night. And so my dad would hit the little pager thing, and I'd come down from my room into where he was, a hospital bed in the living room. And he was not medicated or anything like that. He was dying of heart failure. So he wasn't on, like, you know, cancer patients have a bunch of meds and stuff, make them, you know, their mind a little goofy. No, it wasn't like that. My dad had his faculties, and he was saying, "You got to find some kind of blind to shut that window because their faces are right up there at the top looking in at me." And I was like, "Whose faces?" And I scoffed at it back then. He said, "I would swear it's Bigfoot. I seen one when I lived in Arkansas." My dad's family was from Arkansas. And he says, "I swear that's what's at the window looking in at me. And I don't like them watching me." And well, they knew he was sick, and I think they had some connection. By now, there was no bad encounters happening. It was just a lot of weird strangeness happening.
The high
And
strangeness.
yeah, high strangeness. There's a lot of funny stories about it. Man, they will just they do things to you. They trick you. They play with your mind. You know,
Oh
this is
yeah.
crazy. And my dad and I, we had this understanding about them, and we believed in them. And my dad was very science minded, and he watched a lot of, you know, the Patty, and you know, he was just a strong believer. And the encounters that he had in Arkansas actually stemmed from, it would be my second cousin, my dad's first cousin, my grandmother's sister. You know, they married young back in the day, especially in the South. She was 14 years old and got married off. And she had a couple kids and she had a baby. And so she's trying to juggle all this. And she was about 16 years old when this happened. She would sit on the front porch. Now, they had dirt floor cabins. I mean, we're talking poor
Wow.
people.
Okay.
And she's on the front porch, and she had a cradle there, and I guess she would sit there and snap her beans and peel her potatoes and do everything, outdoors as much as she could, and let the kids play, and she had the baby in the bassinet. Well, she had gotten dinner ready and everything, and the baby kept crying, so she was on the porch with the baby, rocking the baby, keeping it away from the father. I guess the father would get mad because it was too much noise while he's trying to eat. And so she got called in for something, so she laid the baby down in the bassinet. 2 minutes, just 2 minutes, comes back, and the baby's gone. Now, here's the thing about this. Big cats are known for taking infants and things like that. And so that was their first instinct when the baby's gone. But the blankets and everything around, the bottle, everything was taken. And the footprints led right down to the creek right beside the cabin, and they were big footprints. And it led down the creek. And I guess my grandfather and a lot of other, my great grandfather and a lot of other people all got in this hunt trying to,
Find the
retrack
baby.
it. And they were trackers. They were Native Americans. They could track. And they did the best to try and track it, and spent days out there, and they could never recover the baby. And it made her lose her mind. She actually ended up in what they called an asylum back in the day. And then my grandma actually had to take care of her and care for her in her older years. She never regained her faculties. It just tore her up. So there is some connection to my family and these beings, and it's just stuck. I'm not the only one in my family that has these encounters. I have a very close cousin that she lives in Missouri, and she come to me and she's like, I know you know something about something that's out there. And she started telling me all this stuff that's happening to her. And I just stood there because I tried to keep it quiet. I tried to keep the Sasquatch quiet. By now I'm having an understanding of what they are, and that they could be hunted, and they really don't mean harm. And I'm just like, okay, all right, I guess I got to spill the beans. So she's talking about eye shine in different colors. She's talking about seeing them, in various different forms and stuff like that. She's riding her horses because she has a ranch, and she's out riding her horses, working her horses, and she literally sees them like grouped up watching her. So she has encounters too. And so around that time, I had one telepathically start speaking to me, and then when he did, like, the whole clan, like, they were right in my mom's backyard, like, they all, like, started walking up, and I was just like, oh my God, because up until now, all I'd done is cast prints and look at structures, I hadn't looked at them face to face, eye to eye. And they start this telepathic communication, and they're talking about knowing me since I was a small child, and they're showing me images of in my brain of, and I'm like, oh my God, I remember that, and it just blew me away, and it literally shook me so bad. I called my research buddies that also made fun of this
Same
term,
thing happened
mind
to me.
speak.
The same thing happened to me. I haven't gotten the mind speak from them, but like they gave me my memory back of seeing them when I was a kid too,
Yeah.
after I'd regained and found who I was again, and made my connection with them again, then they let me see that, and it's just so cool how they work, eh?
It is. And I was really freaked out. And so my buddies went out with me, and they're like, okay, we're going to do a test, and we're going to figure this thing out with this telepathy, and figure out if they really are talking to your head. And so the way we went about this was, there was a pavilion, and this one Bigfoot would always come up to the edge. And my buddy Farland had worked with them, and he had a feeling that they understood him, and he's like, this is the place we got to go. the place that I've been going for years. He goes, I have a feeling they understand me. He says, the only way we can figure this out is if we take you there and we try. And I'm like, okay, because I'll do anything, because this literally is keeping me awake at night. I'm just nervous. And having something speak to your head, it really changes you and shakes you. So we went out there, and they needed to believe it. They needed to see it for themselves. I already knew it. I just lived it, you know. So he told Sasquatch, he said, if you can hear me, he goes, I'm going to tell Shel something, and I'm going to have her give you what I tell her in her ear. I'm going to have her give you that message through her mind. And I want you to do that. And so he said, I need you to make a wood knock. And so that's exactly the message I tried to send. And he answered back instantly. He said, what's a wood knock? And I looked at Farland and I said, what's a wood knock? You know, I spoke to my buddies exactly the words that they would say, exactly. And Farland says, oh, okay. There was a rock laying there, and he picked it up and he hit it on, and not real hard, he just hit it on the pavilion. And he says, wood, a tree, or this is wood, and we want you to make noise with it. If you can take another stick or whatever, you know. So this is the message I send to the Bigfoot. And you know, he whispers this to me, and so I say exactly what he told me to do, and I did it. Now my other buddy, he's way over across this great big parking lot, and there was an archery tower there that was made out of the same wood that was in that pavilion. And excuse me, let me get a drink.
Yeah, no worries.
So he's over there, and the Sasquatch says, just give me time. Excuse me. Another drink. So sorry. Been having this nasal drip.
Me too.
It's been getting the best of me. I worried about it all day. So he's way over there. He can't hear us, and this is, you know, all part of it is keeping him separate to see what he experiences. And so this Sasquatch says, just give me time. I have to find something. And so he mimicked exactly what Farland did. He found himself a rock, and then you hear him running. It's like, it was in the fall. The leaves were down. It was really noisy. And you hear him running over towards Rick. He gets over towards Rick, and he took a rock and he slammed it into that the same type of wood into that big tower, and it was loud. And Farland looked at me and he's like, I'll never question it again. Telepathy is real. He says, you're really experienced it, Shel. And so that kind of changed gears with everything, you know. And I, with a team of people, decided that we're not going to use this to like play just games with them. Like, how's your hunt tonight? How are your people? You know, the first thing that I ever asked them was, what do you call yourselves? I don't know, that may be rude, but that is the first thing that came out of my head. And they said, the people. We're a people too.
Mm-hmm.
And when they walked away that very first day that I had a conversation with them, I said, is there anything I can do for your people? I mean, they were so kind. And I said, is there anything I can do for your people? And thank you for showing yourselves to me. And he stopped and he turned around and he looked at me and he said, just teach your people. We're a people too. And so that's been my drive. That started this journey that I've been on since 2007. And it's been teaching people that there are people too, and how to respect them. And, yeah, there are some bad ones out there. They're usually singular, or the ones that are very deep in the woods. The ones that want to know us are on the very edge. They're right next to society. You wouldn't believe the places I found them. I got called, Chicago's an hour and a half away from me. And I got a call from MUFON that said that they had been contacted by a library in Blue Island, and they wanted somebody to come and talk with them and educate them about Sasquatch. And he thought of me. So he paid me $1,000 to go talk to these people for an hour and a half. And I was like,
What?
okay, I'll do it. That's good money. And I've got research. I need parabolic ears. I need this. I need that. Of course I'm going to go,
Yeah. You got to get some of that stuff somehow.
When I got there, I went early. I wanted to see the area because the word was people are experiencing Sasquatch. Well, what I found is the I&M Canal that comes out of the Lake Michigan, and you have a lot of woods there. And this started a whole journey for me focusing research in that area. I mean, I go everywhere. There's, if I'm going to different states and stuff like that, that's cool. I'm looking for new geographical experiences with them and compare it to what I'm learning, because our focus was more like a cultural exchange. I wanted to learn about their people. I didn't want to ask menial little questions and treat them like you're the puppy in the window and, oh, I got a Sasquatch friend. I just never, I was just so serious minded. The science mind kicked in. And so that's what we focused on. And we literally would just log it off. And their names, they have a particular way that they introduce themselves. And I won't say it. I always wait for people to come to me when they say they've had a telepathy encounter. And I say, well, tell me how it went. Tell me the very first thing that happened. Because there was a protocol the Sasquatch, the good ones, will use when they do approach you. And anybody out there that speaks telepathy with them will know that the number 3 is significant. And that's all I'm going to say about it. So,
I got to interject. Can I interject right now?
Yes, of
course.
Guess who our third guest is? Who's number 3? Shel is.
Hey, signs. You believe in signs? I believe in signs.
I do as well.
Good interjection.
There's our sign. So anyway, all of this starts leading up to just us just diving into where, I'm studying every day. In the daytime, I was logging the growth of their young because they were showing me their young when they were born. And I literally see, I literally had them. I had a sandy area in the backyard because I was not leaving my mom until I had made sure she's absolutely safe with these beings. And so I also had an 8-year-old kid. And so I decided that this tree had a rope on it. And I thought, I'm going to put sand all underneath this whole area out there. And back in the day, I know you don't feed them. Never feed them. There's gifts that you can give them, and we'll get into gifting later. But we had put we'd gone to a pet store and put some monkey bites in the giant glass pickle jar, and I had a tree that had a fork in it, and I put those in there. I put some Rice Krispie treats in there, and there's some other kind of candy was in there. And they would literally open the jar, and their crumbs and everything as they're chewing would fall over the top of the jar as they were putting the lid back on. And then they would put it in there so hard I couldn't get it out, and I'd have to have help with somebody help me fry this up, And their little ones were leaving prints in the sand. So I learned using hairspray and sand and Aquanet, like a whole can, will get you a really good cast. And so that's where I started the casting. And then I just, started following the creeks, the local creeks. I started following the rivers. And so when I got up to Blue Island, I had a good idea of what I'm looking for, the kind of structures I'm looking for, the habitat. I kind of had my act together when I went up there. But what I did not expect is here I am in Chicago, a concrete jungle, and it was standing room only. These people piled in until there was no more seats, and they were literally shoulder to shoulder with me while I'm up front trying to talk, and I'm passing my cast around. And I always make my
Oh my. Yeah.
cast. I'll take a cast and I'll make a mold and then make it acrylic. You can literally play softball with these things. You have a picture of one of them, the white one. That's acrylic. And so you can pass it around, not worry about, that 5-year-old has my cast isn't going to get dropped, So, these people were fascinated. And so I just stopped because it was just, they were hanging on to my every word. And I said, how many of you in this room have seen a Sasquatch? And 3/4 of that room raised their hand. And so I started asking questions. Where did you see it? Well, it was getting in my swimming pool in my backyard. And another one, it's in my garden. It came over the fence. It just stepped right over the fence and was in my garden.
Mhm.
And I just couldn't believe it. Dumpster diving. There was a lot of dumpster diving. And I found parks that would be behind like strip malls. They had rows of dumpsters, and they would have fencing and stuff. So garbage wouldn't be able to get into that park because of the fencing. But I would find structures where they make their huts, like these little like shelters, and it'd be full of containers of food containers and stuff. So they're dumpster diving, going over that fence, going into a shelter relatively close to it, and they're eating. And their prints were everywhere. I mean, the evidence was just off the wall. It was crazy. And so they are literally right on the edge of society.
Yeah.
Now,
No.
another thing that I learned about that by going to so many different areas and being in contact with people that are having, encounters, and some of them scary, some of them good, I started noticing something. The
What's that?
neighborhoods that I would end up in that had nicer homes, had really nice manicured lawns, the kind where the people are out there on the weekend spending time with their kids, swimming in the pool, playing catch. Those kind of people had nothing bad to say, but they were experiencing Sasquatch.
They were.
Now, some of the areas I got into that were a little more poor and a little more sketchy, where it was a little more violent, the Sasquatch were not friendly when I tried to engage. And I was like, okay, so they respond by what they're seeing in the area. If they see shootings and they
Mhm.
see rapes and they see brutality and stuff like that, they don't like the people. They're
Yeah.
watching, they're watching, they're learning, they're observing, but they don't like them, and they didn't like me. They didn't want to deal with me. So I just back out. Okay. But it seemed like they literally are studying us, and that's their gig. And I'm like, okay, you're going to study us. I'm going to study you. And so whenever I get, I never go out there with the intention to find them or hunt them down. It's not, you can't go finding Bigfoot. We've seen that on TV. I mean, that was really, not successful, finding Bigfoot. Um, and I always said, you don't go out there finding Bigfoot. You go
Yeah.
out there, find yourself, find something you like to do in that forest,
Mhm.
and
That's
or
how you'll
around a
find
forest,
Bigfoot.
fishing. You find yourself and they find you. You do what you like, and you're relaxed and you're confident in yourself and being in their area and not worrying
Yeah.
about them and not having your brain on them. If you've got your brain on them, you might find prints and you might find structures, but you'd be very slim chance of finding a Bigfoot.
Best show ever. Dogman Confessions.
Oh, thank you. That's nice. I don't know who that is, but Dogman Confessions, yeah, you rock. You gave me 2 really great compliments.
That's my twin brother.
Oh, so are there any questions so far? Does anybody have questions?
I haven't really seen many other than somebody was asking about babies, but you kind of mentioned that already.
Yeah, I
You're doing
started
something.
gauging their growth. They would literally show me when they had a newborn, and you put one of the newborn pictures up in the intro. And they would literally show me when they got a newborn, and I would log that. And then the next year, to the date, they would bring back the child, and I would have a print. They would leave me a print. And I was casting these prints of the babies so I could gauge the growth of the babies, how fast they grow. What I learned from that was their growth patterns compared to our children, it's cool. It's about the same until you get about age 7 or 8, and then they just sprout. I mean, like way faster than our kids. It's like we went from 7 to 13. I mean, it's just boom, their feet just grew so fast. You see them, the activities that they do changes. When they're around that age, they can still climb at the tops of the trees. And when you go into an area, now I'm going to give some of my secrets away here for up and coming researchers, some things that they can look for to know if they're in a area before they have to walk 3 miles in an area. You can tell they're there at the entrance. Look around at all the trees. Like, say you get there, you park your car, and there's some paths that, or hiking paths or whatever. Don't just rush into that woods. Go around that parking lot. Look at the trees, because there will be a tree that the bark will look pushed in, and it'll look like the tree has a disease. But every foot and a half, you will see the bark is pushed in and polished, making it a lighter or darker color depending on the time of the year. And that's where you'll find the watchers. Now, if you were to be there at night and you're in the woods and you look back at that tree and you look up at the top, when there's a car approaching or people are starting to come in or something, they will literally flash their eye colors, like light blue and green is like, it's okay, we know these people. But if it's orange, it's caution. Red is like, uh-oh, we got trouble. Yellow is a caution. All the pastel colors are good, and I've seen all of them. Things you would never think you'd see, like a violet color and stuff. I've got a very beautiful aqua color. I should have gave you guys that picture. It was looking in my living room window at my cat. I think I shared it with Jared. Did I share that with you, Jared?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah,
Pretty sure you did.
it's pretty beautiful, actually. And he's right up there studying my cat. It was really cool. So I'm studying him and he's studying my cat. But yeah, window peeping is a thing here that I actually plan. I'll throw something like, at the time I had some lit pumpkins from my kids were little. I plugged them in the wall and I open the shade and I sit back on the couch and just like, okay, Dave's gonna watch the series and I'm not into that, so I'm gonna watch the window. And so I sit back in the dark and watch the window and catch them doing stuff.
So Dogman Confessions here is talking about, because I talked with my brother about that. We were talking about like different kinds of Sasquatch. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, I know we were talking about like, where the Sasquatch come from or like
where they originate. It's
how
a long,
we are,
it's
like,
a long
how are we
story.
connected to them? How are we related to the Sasquatch?
Well, I heard I try to keep my information and not take it to heart unless I hear it from like 3 different geographical areas, trying to
Okay.
make a bond with them and, return to that area. So I heard this story twice. So I'm not going to say this is gold, but it's definitely
Okay.
a story that came to me twice from them. They had
Mhm.
talked about, and trying to, I've got a team here that's putting together the stories that they're telling me and trying to link up, because they're, when they communicate with you, there is somewhat of a language barrier, where you
Mhm.
got to try to put the pieces together. They may speak in your mind, and they'll start taking words from your mind and it'll start flowing better, but at first it'll be kind of broken. But
Mhm.
the gist of it was this: that they were what sounds like Africa. And they talked about what seems like pyramids. And they were talking about their people lived up in the mountains, and that star people came and needed them to help mine the shiny substance. And I thought, gold.
Mhm.
And so when I thought gold twice, 2 different locations, 2 different states, they said, yes, you're aware. And I said, okay, okay, we're on the same page. Mining gold and doing heavy work. And so they took some of their people from the mountains and mixed them with the star people so that they would be more intelligent and could be communicated with, and they could be told what to do, and the strength and agility could be used, and they would be able to see at night. And I was like fascinated at that point. They had me completely invested. And so from there, I said, what happened to, your people? How did you come to North America then, or what we call this continent? And they talked about the land bridge. They talked about Africa, and basically would be like Florida area. And they said that there was times they would have to swim, and they went up, they rose up against these quote unquote aliens, star people as they call them, and they fought against them to gather their people out of the mountains and bring them somewhere else where the star people weren't focused. And so they brought them across this land that was breaking apart at the time. So there was some water, and then there was some not. And then a lot of their people didn't make it. And he said it was the people that weren't mixed with the star people. And the ones that did, they got them as far as they could to land and to where there's food and there's fresh water and things like that. And they spread out. Now, that would explain to me why the skunk ape is so completely different than what I deal with, where I'm in the Midwest, and, Tennessee is about as far south as I've been going, Missouri, Arkansas. And they're a little rougher and they look more orangutan-ish,
Mhm.
and they've got canines in their mouth, where up here they got teeth like us. And we got glowing eyes up here. I'm not seeing the glowing eyes down there in Florida. I did spend time in Florida, and it was a different ball game. There was no telepathy. The communication was not there. They're just peeking around trees and, watching you and making a lot of monkey noises. And it just sounded completely different. And I said to them at this point, because it's literally like a culture exchange, we're really trying to understand their people. And I
Mhm.
said, well, our people are divided. Some people believe that you have our blood mixed in your blood, and or somehow we're connected to you. And he says that's because you too are connected to the star people. And that was the answers I got. So maybe that's the connection with the mitochondrial DNA, that's come back with Melba Ketchum, the 63% human female mitochondrial would be in that. Maybe they impregnated a female Sasquatch, and they had impregnated a female primitive human back then, and that's the link. That's why we have a connection. I don't have no facts to back that up. All I have is my word.
Your experiences.
Yeah, and that's, and I've literally never told anybody that story.
Mm-hmm.
Leon's aunt was kidnapped by one and impregnated. That means they breed with humans. Yes, I have a lot of stories, a miraculous story that I'd love to share on here, but there was a lady in Oklahoma, can't say where, can't say details. She had twins, and they lived a human life and a Sasquatch life. She would take them out to be with the Sasquatch, pick them up a couple weeks later. The lady had scars from the attack. She was attacked and raped. She had scars from it. She would take these 7-foot-tall boys that worked in this gas station, repaired cars with her that looked different, had very significant separated teeth, big wide mouths, inset darker eyes, very hairy, but not hair all over their body, but more than most men do. And she would take them out and just let them go, and then she would come back and she would pick them up, and she did this until she was in her 80s, and they didn't like to be around humans too much because people gawked at them. And that was the story. I just can't get into good details because it's not my story to share.
So this is a question the Dogman's trying to say here. Now, the two different types of Sasquatch are the ones that are the more original type, and the ones that are more.
Do they mix? I don't know.
Do they? I wonder if they interbreed together still.
No, I don't know that answer. It was an answer I had questions of too, and I didn't get the answers. A lot of people oh, Shel, you're such a know-it-all. Well, no, I'm not. I mean, there's things I know, and there's things I just don't know.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I agree with what Sasquatch Seeker says. I do know I do know that I had taught this one Sasquatch to count. We had actually saved their life with some medication, and I had to. One of them had, and
Shel, excuse us, folks. Shel and JT, let's take a little intermission. Let's check out what just happened with JT on the internet.
A few moments later.
Let's see here. So, new friend of the channel, Sasquatch Confessions, JT. Sent us a couple pictures. So, what he says is, and I agree, is that this creature is barely peeking through the bush. There's all bush all around him, and what you're going to see is an eye here, and an eye there, and a large hooded nose. There's a nostril there, and you can start to see the top of the mouth right there. That's the corner of the mouth. And this is its upper lip, and then it's got the rest of the face here. So this creature is just, I'm sorry, it's a Sasquatch for sure. But it's just barely peeking through the woods, or, through the bush at him. So thank you, JT, for sharing that. I got one more here from JT as well. I looked at this picture for quite a while, trying to see what there is to see, and it's unfortunately it's one of those pictures where the trees and the tree limbs got the focus, and the creature in the background did not get the focus, and that's just the way that goes. But what I think what we're seeing here, kind of imagine the way an Ewok looks, right? Where they have like the discoloration, on like the gray face and the reddish brown sort of goatee under the we'll call it, it's a frown. It's basically just a frown. We'll call it that. So it's, you get the hair underneath that. And then I think we're seeing the nose here, which is a different coloration than the face. And then you've got the eyes up under this like sort of hood. And the head throws me off. Like, I don't exactly know what the shape is. Like, I think this is sort of a Sasquatch creature, but then again, I'd never seen one that looks like that before. I mean, maybe you can call it a Gugway, but it doesn't necessarily. It does have more of an ape face than a human face, so I think it's fair to say that. But either way, and I don't know what's going on over here. I think Jared had suggested that maybe this was young, like a juvenile, like an eye there. Maybe I would tend to think it's probably more the hand of this creature or the arm just wrapping around this tree, and he's kind of hanging out the side of it. So thank you. If you want to check them out, it's Jared Taylor, JT, Sasquatch Confessions, Dogman Confessions. They're on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, you name it.
Oh yeah.
But the jerk didn't remember me. What the heck?
Well,
Anyways,
this is the thing, O.R.D, right? Those are pictures that I sent him, like on a private chat, like between me and him. So that's probably why that was about.
Yeah,
it was nothing against you, by
yeah. Hey, by the way, Shel,
send him some pictures. He'd love to share your pictures too. I'm sure
he can. I got them all on my YouTube channel. I told him he can snipe any of them. I don't care. I don't go around sending people pictures.
Yeah.
Nothing personal against them. But Shel, thank you for your patience. Thank you for the interruption and the intermission. I should have warned you. It'd been like within an hour. We'll try to take a little break there. But fascinating stuff that you're sharing, Shel. It's how long have you been doing this now? How long have you been like
since I was a teenager? Since I was a teenager, yeah. Since me and my brother were teenagers, I probably started when I was like, well, when that happened to me when I was 17, that just piqued our curiosity. We had fear, but we were like, we'd hang close to the house, but we would venture out in the night. And
so 37 years. Is that right?
Yeah.
So the math right?
So yeah, something like that.
We both can.
And I've been experiencing them since I was a 4-year-old. I was a 4-year-old my first encounter. So yeah. So then, research around 2010, I would just be taking pictures with me and my daughter out hiking on a Mother's Day hike when she turned 10 years old. And there's a dog man standing behind us, and I mean it is clear as day, and he's kneeled down on one knee, and you see his crooked legs and his big forward face and ears, and he's giant. And I didn't know he was there. I didn't notice it in the picture until I got home, and I posted the pictures on Facebook. Me and Cassie had a Mother's Day hike, blah 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 blah, and somebody's like, oh my god, did you look back behind you? And I was like, no. And this was a place I went all the time where the Sasquatch are very friendly. And later on, I stopped going there because we accidentally walked through a portal and ended up on an island and almost died. That's his whole story, the portal story. And if somebody wants to look up the portal story, if you have Spotify, or it might be on YouTube, it's Paranormal Portal with Brent Thomas, and it's my name and portals, and you can hear that whole long story there because it's a whole show on that. But we're not going to talk about that now because there's other beings we got to get to. So we had Dogman come on the page here, and nobody wanted to believe it. And so I actively started going out to the area, and I got footage of it. And Scott Carpenter and I both released Dogman the same day.
Oh,
He
wow.
had footage, I had footage, and it's like, yes.
Did you just say the same day?
The same day. We released it the
What
same
day
day.
was that? What day was that?
I don't remember. I just remember it happening, and he called
What year?
me.
What year?
Oh, God.
Could it be 2017 or 2000?
It was 2012, I think it was.
The
Or
first time
2011.
6 years earlier, he released one of Dogman? I thought it was some more like 16, 17. It doesn't matter.
No. It was earlier.
So you know them all the time. Okay. So you've been around, haven't you? You've been around.
Oh, yeah. I worked with Scott way back. I first met Scott back in 2006. And, we always shared info and stuff on how to collect hair. And, we were banging ideas off each other, getting DNA. We both were sending in DNA to the Genome Project.
I spent some time with him in 2017, but just online. So did several shows with him.
Yeah,
I didn't know. I had no idea he had been researching that early. Okay.
Oh yeah, they were coming to his house and when I first met him, they were getting into dog
think
food.
About he was on the Survivor Man show. That was in like 2012 or something like that, 2014. So he was back doing it long before then.
Well, that's 2014 and 2006 are two different. That's almost a decade.
Well, I'm just saying, right? Like I'm sure he's been doing it for quite a while before.
I did not know that. So,
yeah.
I see Sherry, Cheryl. Okay. Yeah. I was sometimes pick up on, connections with them, and they would lead me to specific people that had been in contact with me. And Sherry didn't even know anything about Bigfoot. And I kind of had this like premonition. It's Sherry I need to call. It's Sherry I need to call. And so I called her and I say, I need you to go out on your deck. I can remote view. There's all kinds of things that happen to me after contact with Sasquatch. Astral projection. I mean, you name it. They literally crack me open just like a melon.
Now, did it come over time, or did it happen like all at once, start coming at you?
It happened over a period of months. I would say over a period of like a year of different things that they were showing me and teaching me. So I had this remote view of her entire house and her backyard, her fencing, her deck, everything. I could see it. They had a boat, they had a pool, and I'm like, okay. And I see the Sasquatch out there, and he had yellow eyes. And so I didn't know her well. She had contacted me thinking I was a paranormal person. I could help her with this ghost problem she was having in her house, which I don't really think it was a ghost problem after this happened. I think it was more related to the cryptids. But she had contacted me once. We'd had a good talk, and I basically told her I can't help you. I'm not into ghosts and stuff like that. I just stay away from that whole thing. And I'm so focused on the cryptids, it takes up all my time. Well, I'm getting these visuals and stuff, and then I actually see her. Like, I'm looking through a window, and I see her, and I recognize her. I'm like, that's Sherry. So I called Sherry, and I was like, you need to walk out on your deck right now, and you would be able to see a Bigfoot in his eye shine. And she's like, what? A Bigfoot? And I was like, yeah, go out there. And she lives in the Pine Barrens. And so she's in prime location. And so I sent her out there, and it started a whole journey for her. She was actually blown away. She's like, how did you know that? And I was like, it's a little creepy how I know that. I was able to see you and see your property and everything. And I'm sorry, I don't want to be invasive, but yeah, this is happening. And so she has been a follower for me ever since then. I think that was 2014 that happened. So yeah, she made that comment, and that's what that was about.
See.
So I want to talk briefly on Dogman.
Yeah, let's talk about some stuff. Let's see some of her pictures, and while we're talking about the dog man, maybe you can bring those up, O.R.D.
Well, once I show you what you filmed in this video.
Okay, let's see what did we film here. I think I see what you're saying.
Are we taking a break again, or?
No.
No.
Oh no. Okay.
We're just
So
interrupting.
when
We're
each-
just interrupting for a second because we discovered that JT filmed something that he didn't know he filmed. So just give me a chance to share this. Where did I save it at? Sorry about this.
No worries.
Let's try this again. So right here at before I screw it up, in your video, you got somebody right here looking at you, which I think is pretty darn cool. While we're talking about this, and this shows up, so I gotta put it in the right file because that's yours. Thank you for your patience, everyone, and sorry for the interruption. Where are you? Where's JT at?
Good old JT file.
I'll put it in mine for now, and then I'll find it later. Okay, let's try this again. 2 and 13. Yeah, that is there. Should be there. Where's 2, 8, 13? Sorry for the space. It's pretty exciting. It's not pareidolia. I can tell you that much. But you give us your insight on this as well, Shelley.
You don't want my opinion on it.
You don't want my opinion on it. Guys, I'm gonna mute my mic for 1 second. So just do this. I gotta do one thing for 1 sec. So I'll be right back.
Looks to me, JT, you might have filmed something right here. So, just to remember that you go back to your video. At 28 minutes and 39 seconds. So, go ahead now. I'm sorry about this, Shel. These guys that go tromping in those woods up there in BC and they filming stuff. And while we're doing this, I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm watching the video where you're talking. It's like there's something right behind that tree. Sure looks that way.
I see what you're saying. I see it. I don't know what it would be, but
28 minutes and 39 seconds. Start looking right there.
Can I get some advice real quick on photography and how people are, they're talking about energy and getting these, blurry images and stuff like that, when you can clearly see we have used digital cameras that are, around 10 grand.
Mm-hmm.
And we've gotten some really clear images, that may be at a distance sometimes, but that they're very clear. There's no question when you look at them. Well, one of the things that I do, and I'm really reaching out, I'm trying to help these people that want to take clear pictures, or they're habituating, or they have opportunity to get good footage, and it's not happening for them. One thing, when you're using a digital camera, especially your cell phones, if it doesn't detect a face, it's going to focus on the other objects like the trees and things like that. Mm-hmm. So, and they also, I stick to the Samsung. I have Samsung 23. It allows you to set the ISO on it. I use a Sony 6000E. We use Canon. Those are the top cameras for me. I had a Nikon also with 24 megapixels. Now, see, you guys are looking at that, and I'm looking over at the left corner over here.
That's where I was filming at this spot, actually, right there behind the trees where I was filming.
If you go all the way to the left, if you go all the way to the left and towards the bottom, there actually looks like movement of something, and it's a face there. That's what I see. Something is moving right there. It's almost, you've almost brought it dead center, but then you went back. It's in front of a tree.
Well, there's definitely something moving over there. Let's see
No,
it.
there
Down
was
lower.
something
Go
down there. I
lower.
could see it.
Go down lower. It looks like a face. Go down lower. And it has been moving. And it's right in front of that tree, so it blends in with it.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's moved to the side and up. You're going up. Oh, it's all the way at the top. Okay. Anyway, so
Thanks for your patience.
people think when they get a camera and they're set out to go take pictures in the forest of Bigfoot, or anything, dog man, any of these, and I want to call them interdimensionals, and I really don't care who gets mad about that, because I have
That's what
seen
they
things
are.
that I have seen things that
We're in agreement.
tell me they're interdimensional. Okay, so if we have a 12-strand DNA, and from what I understand, the DNA strands come back on them like they were high. They were like around 24. So they have a faster particle spin than we. Humans have the worst eyesight on this earth. Dogs, cats can pick up these things. I have gotten some amazing pictures because my dog alerted me. There's something over there. My cat alerted me. There's something there, you know? And I took pictures. And I was like astonished that I couldn't see something with my eye, but I've got this beautiful clear picture of a Sasquatch or a dog man or something. It's crazy. So I start thinking about that. And I start thinking, you know, what happens to us when we become nervous? We perspire, our heart rate goes up, our body temperature goes up, blood pressure, everything spins faster. Our body, the way it's working, it's moving faster. And what if they're the same way? What if they're nervous because they're in our presence and their particle spin changes? Yeah. And because they have a higher strand DNA and they are interdimensional, they literally are moving so fast that we can't see them. Well, instead of turning the ISO up to catch an image that's moving fast, what if we slow it down as far as possible we can, like 50? Take it down, the ISO, all the way down to like 50 and 80. You're going to have to be very steady with your hands. I mean, it's impossible to use a tripod and take pictures of Bigfoot. That's just not going to happen. But you can lean on something, you can steady yourself, and you can get the shot. When you take the picture, what it's done is it's slowed down that moment enough that you caught a clear image and not them zooming. And your ISO blurs, the higher number you use, it blurs your photo more. And people don't understand that. So they really need to take some, like a camera class. There's some online free classes that you can sign up that teach you about the settings in your camera and stuff. You know, where you want to set your aperture and all that stuff. They'll give you details on that with lighting and things, and where you want your settings in certain situations. But always remember that ISO, bring it down and be very steady. And you're going to be amazed at what you'll bring out. You're going to be just shocked at the clearness, the crispness that you have.
Well, I'm going to give it a shot.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
I never really mess with my camera settings when I'm out there doing stuff and taking pictures and videos and stuff. Like, I know I have the option to do that on my phone here. I'm going to give that a shot and try it. For sure. Ryan, the Midwest Outlaw, wants to know, have you guys seen any Bigfoot tree structures? Like, what are your thoughts on Bigfoot tree structures, and like, have you seen them?
Okay, well, of course I have.
Of course I have.
I used to go to this one place. I actually called that place the Kerplunk because it looked like somebody took big heavy equipment and put trees up inside trees. And if you ever played that game back in the 60s, 70s, they had a game called Kerplunk where you had all these sticks in this plastic thing, and the marbles were on the top, and you pulled each stick out. I've seen them way up in the air, like 40 feet, and whole trees that got their roots uprooted and everything were stuck in it. And I used to call it the Kerplunk area. Well, I've learned a lot about their structures and their directionals. And like, for instance, You can drive down the road and you can see this. You can put this to the test. You'll see a structure over here to the right with some obvious trees that are got, big branches like leaned up against it, and another one leaned up against it's a little bit smaller, and then a little bit of a smaller one there, and you'll see that. But if you look across the other side of the road, you'll see the same thing, and it's all pointing the same direction. Now, Sasquatch, a lot of them move in the spring, summer, fall, and they'll locate. They're like snowbirds. They'll go further south to get away from the heavy snow. It's easier to hunt and not be stomping through the snow. So they'll move, and what happens is the big guy will come first. Dad, he'll come through, and he'll put a great big limb up against a tree and mark the area that he's gone. Now, the next one to come through will be the mom, and she'll do the same thing. She'll mark the same area. It was safe to cross the road here. We made it, marked that we made it. Okay, on our way. And then the juvenile, and the mom comes through. She's got the babies. And then you'll have the juveniles come last, and they'll mark the same thing with a smaller stick, and the same thing. Got across the road safe, marked it here. And if they lose each other, they can go back and see where things stopped getting marked. And that was information I got directly from them on how they travel. They never travel in a straight line. They will not go one way and then turn around and come back that way. They move in a circle. They move in an oval. They will not move. Okay, I've already walked that path.
They're not going to backtrack.
I'm not going to backtrack. They never do. You will never find tracks going one way and then back the other way. It's never happened in all these years of me doing this. Another thing, everything that they put out there, it's for them. It is not for us. It's no message to us. It is them doing their thing. Now, one time I did something crazy. I went and I got some sticks because everybody was fascinated with these glyphs online that are on the ground. And I can't deny that I was seeing stuff that just like, wow, that just doesn't look like it fell there. And so I took these sticks, cleared them of bark. They were all 12 inches long. I had a bunch of them. And I looked up some Nordic ruin. Everybody said that their language was like Nordic ruin language. And so I made a sign of peace, a sign of love, and a sign of journey. I just thought, okay, those are 3 significant signs. And I went out to the farthest part of my backyard and I put it out there. And the next morning I went out there and my entire yard was glyphs that I didn't understand, all the same way, all the same kind of sticks. And it was just like lines of it, like they had wrote poetry or something. And I was like, oh my God, what do I do with this? So I just took pictures and tried to line up to Nordic rune language. And I wasn't getting meanings. I couldn't, like some of these things I couldn't line up to the ruin. It just, there was no symbol for it. Somebody has a question.
They were asking about Dogman, I'm reading that one. The structures made with big trees.
Oh, like I see that. Okay. Yeah, giant trees, yes. What the significant is, I'm not sure. There's other things, X's. Let's talk about the giant X's.
Yeah.
I figured out what the giant X's were in this place that I always used to go, where there was a lot of little kids and they had these dry creek beds, and when the water would run away, man, these kids would be running all over it and leaving you all kinds of prints. Consequently, these X's will be, right on the path or close to the path. And I started noticing that when you look at these X's, one of the trees would be a little smaller in diameter than the other one. And I started noticing that, okay, if you get off the main path and you get on the Bigfoot path, if you're a researcher, you know what the Bigfoot path is. If you get on the Bigfoot path, it's easier to walk through. You're not getting brambles hitting you in the face. It's all cleared out. They're much bigger, wider, and the path's padded nice. It's just a much more way to travel. So getting off the main path, getting on the Bigfoot path, I started doing these X's, and coming right up to the X was a bunch of little tiny prints. Always juvenile prints coming up these X's and turning around and going back another way. And so I just asked them, I said, why are there so many of your young coming up to these big X's? And they said, well, the big tree represents us and our side, and the smaller tree means that we're going to run into your people, the smaller tree. And if you look before you ever get up to one of those X's, up in the upper trees, you will see directionals where the trees are like leaned together a little bit, noting that it's coming up. You can't cross this area. Not meaning us, but them. It's for the little ones to know not to go beyond here. We don't want you. Now, it's like a playpen. It's like keeping them corralled and keeping them from getting in our way. Now, there's another thing that they'll mark on their path. You might notice before it crosses our path, because it usually always does. There will be like 3 logs laid out, and they would be almost like speed bumps. I call them speed bumps. And they'll be right before you get onto our path. And I actually tripped on one time and tore my rotary cuff muscle that day. They're definitely going to slow them down and keep them from and it'll always be a path that has snowmobiles or horses. That's what I notice. They don't use them on just a walking path, but the ones that have like fast moving things, they lay down a warning for the people, like, heads up, you're coming in contact with those little naked people, so that's another thing that you can watch out for when it comes to structure. The asterisks, you'll see a star like business going on. Sometimes they'll even have a branch off of that and another little one. They're actually claiming that area is a clan living there, and it's a marker for their people to know that, okay, you're coming into an area that's a community and you better check in. When you have a branch off of that and another asterisk, it's saying that, in that direction, whatever that direction is there's more of our people over there, a smaller community. So they're just communicating with each other, these things. And what I've learned of them is by simply asking them politely, could you explain that to me and what that means? And that's as far as I got on structures. I don't know anything else.
Good old structures.
Look at okay, let's get to some of these pictures. Or do you want to share something about Dogman you were saying, or do you want to just go through pictures, or what do you guys want to do here?
Yeah, you can go through pictures, and before we end, I want to do some affirmative distinctions between a being we call a wolf creature and what we call a Dogman.
Here's another thing, Shel. Hopefully this is just part 1. So the pictures things are always going to be here. So continue with your conversation. Let's talk about what's on your mind.
This is a cast that's made off of an acrylic mold and made acrylic from a plaster cast. On the lower side there, where it's kind of got a hunk out, there was a rock, and their foot kind of molded around that rock. You had a really good tarsal break in it. Jeff Meldrum actually had this cast for a while, and he said it had the best dermal ridges he had ever seen on any cast.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's fascinating. So, like I said, we don't have to go through all these images. Let's go through a couple of these, and then
I
let's
love
go back
this one.
into your stories about the dogman and all that. And
I
the
love
difference
this picture, man. I love this one. The six-toed print, like.
Yeah, and people don't realize how common it is with our people as humans to have
Mhm.
6 toes.
I know someone.
My daughter went to school with a girl that had 6 toes on each foot. Had a hard time finding sandals and things like that to wear. This was the same individual, except for the bottom cast. There was another one that was just laying there. But these 2 feet are the same. This was a walking path. But when he spread his foot out so wide with the 6 toe, he was actually going uphill. And now I actually have a series of casts in a track line where they were running up to the water. And as they got close, they were spreading their feet and changing their feet, almost like a monkey does. And it would shorten the foot by 2 inches and then stretch it back out. And then the width would change according to the speed of how they were moving and the momentum as they were turning. And I was fascinated by that. That's crazy how they could use their feet. Now, 6 toes, my mom was, like I said, she was OB nurse, and 1 out of 100 kids will be born with an extra appendage, and they tie it off as long as there's not bone included in it. If it's got bone included in it, then it's going to be a surgery, and some people choose not to fix it and some people do. This was a 6-toe cast. Scott Carper actually wanted to use this in his book. He's fascinated with this cast.
It's a good one. It's really quite interesting for sure.
Yeah.
All right.
I just wish that it would have been a little deeper and that 3rd toe would have come through, but instead I just got the tip.
I can see it. It's there.
Now it's got David Talaga on there. I have to give David some credit here. He's my research partner and has been my partner since 2010. And a lot of the photography work is his as well. So he's every bit as good, as knowledgeable as I am. He doesn't have the telepathy that I do. So he has not been able to get into the culture of them and stuff. So if you guys hit him up on Facebook or whatever, you can pick his brain too. He's very knowledgeable in the field. He has a great eye. He is deaf, so he can't do these stories. And that deafness has been something that helps us in the field, because what you lack with one sense, you have a better sense in another way. And so his eyes are amazing. And just, feeling, sometimes you will just feel the presence and feel the energy, and you just kind of know where to take the picture, and then boom, it's a beautiful picture, and he's a master at that. So
when I take my pictures and I get one, it's like I just have a feeling, and something tells him to start taking pictures, and I do it, and then I have a Sasquatch or some kind of spirit or elemental in my pictures, and that's how I do it too. So what do we got here?
This is just random. I was in the swamp. We have a lot of swamps here, and I go over to Indiana also, and I was in Indiana swamp, and the duck moss was disturbed. It was not disturbed anywhere else. The time of year it was getting a little cold. That water is very dangerous water. People don't get in it and stuff. It's just a dangerous area, and that appeared overnight. I had been there the day before and, had been investigating and stuff. And then I go the next day, and that's sticking like right at the beginning, like, okay, Shel, we know you're here. I was like, okay, they're letting me know.
These little subtle signs, are they, like you said, at the entrance of the trail or they're right there. They're just trying to get your attention. You just have to be able to see it and pick it up.
What about this image, Shel?
Oh wow, yeah, I like that. It's a great shot.
Oh, this is an interesting photo. I can't believe you chose this one. There's a story behind this one. Um, there's a larger individual in the middle, and his right eye, is reflecting. Now, this was taken during the eclipse. We got many images that day, and we had told them the day
Which
before.
eclipse? 2017?
Yeah. And we had told
Really?
them
2017.
that
You hear that? You hear that, JT? Well, who else had a very eventful year in 2017?
we had told them.
Anybody know? Anybody? Yeah, that's right, me. Go ahead.
We had told them that we were going to be out the next day, and what was going to be happening with the sun and the moon, and that it may get dark and stuff, but we were going to be out there, and it was a miserable hot day. It was like 98 degrees that day. It was just terrible, and I thought we were going to have terrible luck, but I told them I'm going to have the camera that captures your image. If any of you want your image taken for us to have and to keep in a memory of you, we will be out there with the image captures. Now, I don't typically do that by my home. Now, yeah, I do have a habituation situation, or did. You got to move and things happen and stuff. But in this situation, they would all come to the same spot. What you're seeing there is the top of the corn. So that corn was 9 feet tall. So that tells you how tall they are. Well, this being, he looks like he's got a mohawk kind of. He had been burnt, and he talked about coming from the west. And that particular year, there was a lot of fires in Colorado and stuff. And he had been burnt. And that eye, he cannot see out of that eye. He's got his mouth open and smiling and kind of like looking up, like I can look up at the sun. And then he had another being to his right that was with him that they call their bonded one. When they have a female and male that hook together, they call them bonded ones.
Okay.
So he had been burned. He was scarred terribly and didn't have a lot of hair. You can see his neck. You can actually see the muscles in his neck there. And he was messed up.
So, like, are we seeing like I see the face and the one beside him? Is it like right there beside it? Like, I think I see the female's face there too.
Yeah, it's right there.
Like side by side, right?
Right. Yeah, and they had been burned.
That's a great shot.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Wild.
In all these years, I have never seen one that didn't have a hooded nose. I've never seen one that has a gorilla-looking face. And I, like I said, have seen many.
I took some pictures, actually, that I'll end up sharing with you maybe after this, after we get off the show here, because I don't have them. We're lined up right now, but pretty interesting pictures, I thought. I'll end up sending them to you. They're pretty cool.
Let's move on to the next photo. Because there's much better than that picture. This is not one of my favorites.
Are you there?
Huh?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm sorting out an image.
Yeah, all right, man.
Sorting out an image. Let's check out this one. The next one.
Let's do it.
Abracadabra. Go. What's the story behind this one, Deb?
That was the same day. That's kind of that was funny. I was walking towards the backyard, and like I said, the eclipse was happening. It was a little bit darker, but there was a little bit of shine off the trees. It was extremely hot. And this one Sasquatch he would always do goofy stuff at me. And I didn't even see him there. And I was walking and I was videoing. That's taken off a video. So that's why it's a little blurry. And it was a cell phone too. It wasn't my camera. I had left my camera sitting on the picnic table and I had walked away, and I was walking out there by them all, and he goes, "Ooh," with his mouth at the same time I was videoing, and you see his mouth is open and kind of in an O shape.
Yeah.
And his eyes are kind of, glinting a little bit of green, and green is a good color.
Mm-hmm. Safe color.
Yeah, safe colors. But he's a goofy looking one. He was only here that summer, and I've never seen him again.
Some of them look so different, eh? Like some of them literally look like
they're like us.
Goofballs.
They're like us. There's only two that I ever seen that I thought, oh my God, they're identical. And it was a father and a son, and I called them Elvis. I should have sent those pictures to you because they both have a curl in the middle of their forehead. And the 3-year-old was like, he was at the back of the yard hanging on a limb, yelling and yelling. And I heard this noise, and I went out there to see what all this commotion is. And then I see his dad walking down the whole tree line there to like go find him and rescue him. And they just both look the same with this curl of hair right in the middle of their forehead. We had some white Bigfoot that hung out here. Oh, about 2 years they were here, and then they moved on. And she was bringing me a newborn, showing me I've got, a baby.
That's her baby, right?
That's her baby. And she's showing me, okay, because I did log all that stuff, and they knew it, and they were helping me. They wanted us to know they were people, and they would work with me.
Interesting.
Very cool. Oh.
Well, look at one more image.
And you can notice her hair. A lot of the females will do their hair up and use sticks and like have like a bun on top of their head, and they'll find stuff to cut their hair or even shave their hair. They'll find glass and things like that, and they actually do that.
Because we were talking, was that? I can't remember. Was that on the first one, O.R.D, when the seaweed thing? Remember someone seen Sasquatch putting seaweed into its hair, like, or kelp.
Nicole was talking about that. Someone was talked about that. Somebody from
And we were wondering why they would do that. Like, what were they doing? Was it just some kind of like fashion statement or something?
Well, they're weaving grass and hair and that kind of thing.
Well, there's a picture, like you have that picture of that newborn on the adult's knee, and then the background is the older woman with braids like a Native American. You want to pull that picture up?
I don't know which one that is. So what are we going to do if it's all right?
It's the baby.
I know, but I don't know which one it is. So for the next show, we'll be a little more organized about the images and how we're going to go through them, okay? But in the meantime, if it's all right with you, if you work with me on this, since you were talking about the dogman and the difference between the dogman and the other version,
the wolf people,
let's talk about this image, and that will lead us into this conversation. And that will just share a few images because Shel's got lots of them, and I sure hope she becomes a regular part of her show because
that'd be great.
A great asset. So
this is stretched out. My camera was stretched out as far as it could go. This approximately is like 1/8 of a mile away, and he's watching me. My mom had been fighting cancer, and I stayed at her house, and it's very wild at my mom's. It's just crazy. And we'd been having lots of activity. And so I was out there, and I sat on her riding lawnmower. I just stopped because it was so hazy out. And I thought, this is going to be terrible for pictures, but I see something standing over there looking at me. So I just used my cell phone and started hitting video to like stretch out and see what I could see. And this is also an image taken off a video. If you back out a little bit, you can see the bottom of his legs there. It really was hard to discern if this is a dog man or a wolf creature. And the way I discerned it is when you have dog man, they don't have hair on their muzzles and faces. It's skin. It's usually a black or a gray skin. When you have a wolf creature, they're covered in hair and they look wolf-like. And they have straight legs. They don't have these bent frog legs. They don't have a tail. It's basically a Sasquatch body with a dog head. They don't tend to be getting enormously tall. Like these guys, I don't even want to tell you some of the heights I have on these guys. You wouldn't even believe me, but it's just enormous. And the thing about their feet, I have pictures of their feet where they're sitting down and had their feet crossed, and I have prints of their feet where it's 3 toes and pointed claw feet. Okay, their hands are a mix of a paw and a 5-finger hand. So these are more human-like, the wolf creature. But Dogman, if you get to some of my other pictures that are really close up of their faces, you can see there's no hair on the face of a Dogman. And you have these bent like frog canine legs that are capable of leaping and jumping. I had one that was like right down in my face. We were out with the dogs, and I said to David, because I kept the camera rolling because I was literally trying to protect us and see that, okay, are we safe? And just watching as he took care of the dogs. And my backyard was wild, just like my mom's, as you see. And one was like come right up in front of me and was like breathing in my chest, and I had a picture of his orange eyes right there. And thank God I did. I never use a flash on these guys. One of these pictures you have here, one of my students got thrown in a fire, was injured. A flash, Dogman runs hot. And they will retaliate. You take a picture or you try to cast their prints. We've had some really sticky situations doing that stuff. Dogman is a really sticky situation. Not all of them are bad. Some of them are born to this earth, and some of them are a creation. Don't want to go too far into that. I just don't like the MIB breathing down my neck. I've been there, done that. Because they're giving out too much information on the Dogman. So we're just going to say what I said, the description, so that people know what they're dealing with. And the Dogman seems to range in different colors. However, if you have a female wolf creature, usually their leader, not all of them are born this way, but when a female pops out that has a red wolf coat, she usually becomes their leader. They really worship. They have a very superstitious way of doing things. They don't communicate much. They will telepathically communicate, but not often. Not like the Sasquatch. They hang with the Sasquatch. The Sasquatch love them. I've seen them fight alongside the Sasquatch against the Dogman. I have pictures of dead Dogmen. I mean, I have incredible stuff that I just don't release because it would go like fire across the internet. And if the story doesn't go with the picture, I don't want it out there.
Wow. So is that what we were going to share, or?
Yes, that's the important thing to know, that the ones that are hanging with Sasquatch are, good. They're mild. They're not running hot.
Just another
I've only met one hot-headed wolf creature, only one time. How many hot-headed Dogman have I met and run into? Tons. I mean, just tons of red eyes and nasty. That's another thing about the wolf creature eyes. They'll be pastels. They'll be just like the Sasquatch. The thing with Sasquatch, this is a good picture right here. There's no sclera. The story that goes with this picture, we were working on our documentary with Joe Palermo, rest his soul. He passed away on us, and we didn't get all the documentary released. Just have segments of pieces of it. Anyway,
I didn't realize this was a picture. That's a picture that you guys took. That's an amazing picture.
Well, David shot this picture, and how the reflection that you see in his eyes. Okay, so the sun was behind us. It was early morning. We'd gone out to this rougher area that I know. But do you ever seen a hovering X where it's like just balanced on the trees, and it's horizontal to the ground.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
If you
there's one where I go.
if you examine around that area, you might find the kill zone. And the kill zone, they will literally stack the bones, like organize them. Like, here's the deer bones, and here's the legs, and here's the ribs, and they got it all organized, and it's like they sit in the middle and do this, and it's like, it's really weird, it's creepy. So I found the kill zone, and they had a ton of turkey feathers there. They had turkey, they had Canadian geese. There was a lot of deer bones and carcasses, some that had not been taken apart yet, still had skin and still had cartilage. And I'm showing this all in the documentary. And I've got David on this little tiny bridge, because this is just off the side of a road in an area that was probably 3 acres of woods on the left side of the road, and on the right side of the road probably like 5, but it connected and went down a creek line, and it was just a slim tree line all along that creek line, and it was farmland. And so I went in this area because of the hovering X, and it was private property, and we got in trouble, and it was a whole story. But anyway, I had David up there, and I was like, keep an eye out. When you got the kill zone, usually they smell, the guy that I call him the butcher, usually smells like rotten meat. He stinks. He just never gets it off his fur. And it's just like, sometimes there's fresh blood. Pretty gross. So they'll do this by a creek specifically. I have footage of them out here in the, let me finish the story about this and then I'll tell you that. So this picture, he was down in the creek and his nose just above the water, and he was using like the water foliage to hide. And he's got his eyes on David on the bridge, and David's got the camera aimed at him, and David's like, Shel, you gotta get out of there. He's about 20 feet from you. He's down in the water. And so I was like hightailing it out of there pretty quick. He doesn't look very friendly, and he didn't look too happy that we were there. But that's David's reflection in his eyes, because the sun was actually behind him, and it was that's, their eyes are black. They have no sclera. If you get up close to one, it reminds you of a fly, because they'll have like hundreds of hexagons. Like if you ever see somebody that has cataracts, and their eyes kind of like, when they turn a certain way, you'll see a shine in it.
Like the cloudiness.
A cloudiness, but a shine too. And so they got this. It looks like 1,000 hexagons in their eyes when the sun hits them. If you're up close to them and like speaking to them or something.
Cool.
So what I was going to also say, I lost my complete train of thought.
This is probably a good
It
time.
happens.
This is probably about a good time to end this episode. The third episode of Sasquatch Confessions and Friends, and our third guest, very special number, the very special woman, Shel, Dion.
Thank you.
Whisper Walkers.
Shel Karaoke Dion. Mr.
That's right.
O.R.D.
Yeah, if you could go to Whisper Walker's like page and give us a like and follow, that's always appreciated. My TikTok is also on there, Whisper Walkers, Shel Whisper Walkers. You'll find TikTok. I don't carry a website anymore. If you're literally doing the field work and doing it right, there's no time to be playing with websites and stuff like that. You do what you do. There is some stuff on YouTube, not much. I just started putting some of our videos out on YouTube. Like I said, I don't spend a lot of time with this whole thing besides my group. X-Files is actually my group name. which I keep very small numbers in. I believe in quality over quantity when it comes to that. And it's more of my students and people that I know that I let in there, because I share everything in there. My daily life, it's like a blog of this stuff, because it's always something going on. So it's Whisper Walkers without the X-Files, if you're looking us up. And I'm Shel, Kaoke, Kaoke, Dion on Facebook. So I appreciate any of you guys, hitting a follow and following TikTok and all that kind of stuff, and helps us get some momentum, share the stuff, and I appreciate that. So I want to thank everybody that came tonight and gave a listen and interacted, asked questions. Appreciate it all.
Now, here's another question. Are we going to be able to have another conversation?
Well, we never touched on the rake.
We got a lot more to talk about.
We'll talk about that after the show here, believe me.
Yeah,
so,
we'll stay in the studio.
It was an excellent show. You imparted some very intriguing and excellent information, and you couldn't have a better third guest.
Yeah,
couldn't have better.
Lucky number 3, brother.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
So you stay with us. I'm going to end the show here with our I guess, what's the name of the band again? What's the name of the musician? Your friend?
My good friend Conspirituality. That's his name on Spotify. You can find him pretty much everywhere. He streamed his music everywhere. Conspirituality. This is a song that's not out on Spotify yet. If you wanted to hear the actual song, you'd have to go to Bandcamp to hear this one, but you can find him anywhere else with its other music. Check it out, guys. Great music.
And what do we say? What do we say there, I keep on getting LT and JT. What do we say, JT?
Squatch
out.
Put together a little lecture and I'll make the class watch. Pacific Northwest, where we're blessed with Sasquatch. Like in the Himalayas, the abominable snowman, known to have strength more phenomenal than Conan. Discovered evidence of this endangered species. Footprints, hair samples, even stranger feces. Put a bad taste in your mouth like a glass of scotch. Some say it smells worse than an ass or crotch. In British Columbia, they're more than legendary, even though the skeptics claim he's imaginary. Eyewitness accounts that attract attention, while others can't decide if it's a fact or fiction. Is there an ounce of truth? I don't pretend to know. I'm searching for the proof, whether friend or foe. Got his own erotic novel, getting naked with ladies. What's the missing 411? Ask David Pallades.
There's things that are not known. There's things that can't be known. There's things that won't be known. It's okay, you're not alone. There's things that are not known. There's things that won't be known. There's things that can't be known. It's okay, we're not